calling out issues, challenges, and adversities, including failure that we are dealing with. And failure is really just a special type of lemon, and it's one that is especially bitter for many of us. Now, we all know that you can't make lemonade with just lemons. So, we're going to add some additional ingredients by exploring the stories of three amazing women who were able to reach the stars in spite of tremendous challenges. Now, once we have our lemons and our additional ingredients all ready, we're going to make our lemonade by reviewing what we learned. And then, after we've done all that, we're going to end the way we started in rhyme. So let's start picking our lemons. I happen to know that this session that you're in now is one of, I think, three that are running concurrently. My guess is that you chose this session because you're dealing with something, some challenge or some issue, something. Maybe you're getting ready to take on something risky and you're fearing the worst. Or maybe you just feel that you failed at something and you're dealing with that bitterness and those bad feelings that often accompany failure. Whatever it is, I would like you to write about it briefly in the chat. What lemons are you dealing with? What brought you here this morning? I don't want you to write a thesis, but just in the chat, please, and yes, I will share the poem. But now you got to share with me. What are your lemons? What are some of the issues that you're dealing with now? Let me hear from you, Montgomery County women. The unknown, very scary. What else? You got to share. Feeling overwhelmed, yes. What else is going on? Come on, you can share. How to get through the rest of 2020. It is quite a year, isn't it? And being able to support my family. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Starting a new job in the pandemic. Here they come, yes. Lots of challenges, lots of lemons, lots of depression, COVID, so many challenges. And you know what? Thank you for being transparent. Now, we're not going to dwell in lemon land too long. I see that thing filling up. When I asked you to write about your lemons in the chat, if you think about it, what I was really asking you to do was to open up a window to your vulnerabilities. And that's hard. That's tough for a lot of us to do. Nonetheless, our vulnerability is the first additional ingredient for our lemonade. It is our raw sugar. We're all walking stories, all of us. And it's fine to be transparent and vulnerable as long as you control the narrative. Our first amazing woman that we're going to talk about turned sharing vulnerability into an art form, literally. Dealing with an unfaithful spouse is tough. But you know what? I bet it's even tougher for a public figure or somebody who's famous because they probably feel like the whole world knows their business. Everybody knows my business. Beyonce walked us through Jay-Z's infidelity and her painful journey in her 2016 masterpiece, Lemonade. And when she did that, the whole world responded. Lemonade is Beyonce's most critically acclaimed studio album. And that's saying a lot because Beyonce gets a lot of critical acclaim. In fact, the Associated Press named it the greatest album of the decade. The decade. And I know I'll never forget Adele poignantly turning down the 2017 Best Album Grammy for 25 because she felt Lemonade deserved the award. Did you see her? She said, Beyonce is the artist of my life. I love the way she talks. And she talked about how well done and how beautifully put together Lemonade was. And then at an interview after the show, she said, what the F does she have to do to win Album of the Year? That's how I feel, because somebody asked her how she felt. Powerful, unprecedented praise from a fellow artist. With Lemonade, Beyonce showed us that being transparent about our vulnerabilities can lead to unfathomable success. So thank you, Beyonce, for inspiring us to be bold enough to walk in our stories and inspire other people along the way. You have to excuse my allergies. Um, in spite of my allergies, we're ready for our second ingredient, and that is water. Got to have water to make lemonade. In the book, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey says, in choosing our response to circumstance, we powerfully affect our circumstance. Our second amazing woman, Madam C.J. Walker, truly illustrates the truth and the power of that statement. She was born Sarah Breedlove in 1867 on a dirt floor on a plantation in Louisiana. She was one of 6 children of former slaves turned sharecroppers right after the Civil War. In fact, she was born 2 years after the original Juneteenth. Over the course of her life, she only received 3 months of formal education. By the time Sarah was 7 years old, both of her parents had gotten sick and died, so she and her siblings were orphaned. Sarah moved in with one of her older sisters who had married, and the two of them worked in cotton fields. It was tough. Saying it was tough or hard is such an understatement. It was really hard. And to make things worse, her sister's husband was abusive. So when Sarah was 14, she got married to get away from that situation. Tragically, her husband died. So by the time Sarah was 20 years old, she was widowed with a 2-year-old daughter. It was hard down south, so she decided to move up to St. Louis. A few of her brothers had moved up there and were working as barbers. By the time she reached her 30s, she was barely scraping by as a laundress and a cook. She once wrote that she was at a wash tub and she was scrubbing the clothes against the wash tub, and she watched her hands going in and out of the harsh, soapy water. And she said, as she was bent over that washing board, she said to herself, what am I going to do when I get old and my back gets stiff? Who's going to take care of my baby? On top of everything else, as if this wasn't enough, she was losing her hair. And you know what? She wasn't alone. Back in those days, a lot of Black women experienced hair loss because of poor nutrition, lack of indoor plumbing, so you couldn't wash your hair regularly, and exposure to harsh chemicals like the lye and the harsh soaps that she had to use when she washed the clothing of the people that she worked for. A lot of women started wearing head wraps and scarves to cover their bald spots, but Sarah didn't want to do that. She wanted to grow her hair back. She was determined. Around that time, she got a job as a cook for a pharmacist, and it's widely believed that he helped her understand the chemistry of hair products. She also married another guy. His name was Charles J. Walker, and that's how she became known as Madam C.J. Walker. The marriage didn't last, but the name stuck with her for the rest of her life, Madam C.J. Walker. By the early 1900s, she had developed her own formula to heal scalps and to cause hair growth, and her hair did grow back. Do you know that Madam C.J. Walker became the first self-made woman millionaire in the United States with her hair and beauty products? Did you hear me? I didn't say the first Black woman millionaire. I said the first self-made woman millionaire in the United States from a dirt floor on a plantation. Madam C.J. Walker showed us that grit and perseverance can turn dreams into reality. So thank you, Madam C.J. Walker, for refusing to allow your outcomes to be determined by your circumstances. Now it's time for our final ingredient, and that is Ice. Gotta have ice. You know, we all experience failure. It's inevitable, it's a given. Our third and final amazing woman shows us that life of accomplishments. It's difficult, it's complicated, and failure can be painful, but it lets us unlock great potential. I'm speaking of Pennsylvania Superior Court Judge Carolyn H. Nichols. Carolyn went to law school and started practicing law, but she didn't really like being in the courtroom. So after a while, she decided to go back to school and she went and got an MBA. And after that, she worked a couple of corporate jobs and then she landed a position running what used to be called the Minority Business Enterprise Council, or MBEC. The purpose of that organization was to ensure that women owned businesses like yours and also minority owned businesses got fair inclusion and participation in city contracts. Things were going pretty well for Carolyn until about 2008. At that time, the city elected a new mayor. And like new mayors tend to do, he reorganized things. He decided to go in a different direction with MBEC, and this left Carolyn without a job. Now, I didn't tell you this, but the year was 2008. Do you remember what happened in 2008? The United States economy just tanked. It was in the throes of the worst financial disaster since the Great Depression, the worst possible time, maybe except a pandemic, to be looking for a job. She was an overachiever. So every day she would send out at least 100 resumes and she would never get anything back, just wouldn't hear anything. Once, a federal agency reached out to her and invited her to do an interview in Washington. And she was so excited. She went out and spent money she really didn't have, and got herself like a really expensive suit. And she went to Washington, D.C., spent the whole day out there. She said it felt so good. She felt like she was really connecting. And then nothing. She didn't get the job. Her money got tighter and tighter. So eventually, she trained herself to eat $1 hamburger a day and a cup of McDonald's coffee. That was it. She tells us now that she's ready to do a commercial for the McDonald's dollar menu. When she needed stuff for her house, she would always go to the dollar store. The lady in the dollar store near her house, they got to be good friends. Thanks to her law degree, every now and then she would get like little side jobs working for larger firms. But the reality is, the economy was so bad that even lawyers were getting laid off. There really just wasn't a lot of work. In spite of all that, with the discipline in her diet and her spending, and with the side gigs that she was able to get, she never missed a mortgage payment and she was able to pay her basic bills. She stayed focused. One day, one of her friends approached her and said that she decided she wanted to run for common pleas judge. Now, this lady had waited until really the last second to throw her hat in the ring. So Carolyn said, well, you know what? What else do I have to do? I've never done anything like that. So she agreed to run her friend's campaign. Carolyn, like I said, is an overachiever. So she hustled hard. Her friend didn't win, but the loss was by such a narrow margin that Carolyn said to herself, I bet you I could run for judge and win. Sure enough, the following year, Carolyn decided to run for common pleas judge. She didn't have any money, so she had to manage her own campaign, and she got one of her sisters to handle her meager campaign finances because she did raise funds. She kind of knew what she had to do because she learned a lot the previous year when she ran her buddy's campaign. So she started reaching out to some of the influencers and political figures around Philly. And you know what? As she reached out to them looking for support, you know what they told her? You're not going to win. It's not your time. There are other people in line ahead of you. You don't know the right people. And the big one, you don't have any money. They were right about that. She was broke, but they were wrong. She did win. It was amazing, but she won the election. She ended up serving on the Court of Common Pleas for 7 years. And during that 7 years, it was hard. She's in Philly, like me. And, the court system has so many cases. She chose to go into criminal law. So she would hear case after case. And she said many of the cases that she heard involved children and sex and children. And it was really tough. It was very, very difficult for her. So after 7 years, she decided that she wanted to go in a different direction. She wanted to promote. So she wanted to move up to the Pennsylvania Superior Court. Now, in Pennsylvania, all judgeships are elected. So that meant she was going to have to run again. And this was even more of a long shot than the first time she ran. But guess what? As you can tell by the way I introduced her, she won that election too. Do you know that today, Carolyn Nichols is the only person of color who is currently serving on any of the appellate courts in the entire state of Pennsylvania? And I'm going to say that again. She's the only person of color. We are in 2020. She's the only person of color that is serving right now on any of the appellate courts in the entire state of Pennsylvania. Not only that, but she is the first Black woman from Philadelphia to ever be elected to a state appellate court. I guess the rest of the state hates Philly. Whatever the case is, I'll tell you something else about her. She's my sister, and I am very, very proud of her, in case you can't tell. So thank you, Carolyn, for teaching us that, yes, there will be opposition. You will be opposed, but do it anyway. Do it afraid. Do things you think you can't do. Well, you know what? We made our lemonade. We started with our lemons that you gave us in the chat. And then we added our vulnerability, thanks to Beyonce and old cheating Jay-Z. Then came perseverance, courtesy of Madam C.J. Walker, our water. And finally, we had our icy failure, courtesy of my punk sister, Carolyn Nichols. I hope you enjoyed this quirky journey, and I thank you for keeping your hearts and minds open. When you strive, there's no disgrace, though you fail to win the race. Bravely then, in such a case, try, try, try again. So thank you, ladies. Cheers. And Pam, I give it back to you for questions.
Eloise, that was absolutely amazing. Thank you. I was in awe about Beyonce and then Madam C.J. Walker. And then as someone posted, the plot twist that you shared with your sister is just absolutely amazing. So thank you so much. What a wonderful way to start our power sessions today. And so at this time, I know there's a lot of comments coming in. Any questions that we can share or Eloise can ask? So what happened to the sugar? Did you have a sugar metaphor? And I think that was the vulnerability, if I remember you saying.
That was Beyonce. Beyonce's raw sugar. It was raw. But if you listen to Lemonade, there's some sweetness in there. I love Beyonce. I think I am Beyonce. I'll tell you a funny story. I took this class. I think it was like creative leadership or something. And it was a corporate thing. So they told us to send in pictures and your bio. So I thought I'd be creative. And instead of sending my own picture, I sent, actually, this is my favorite headshot. I sent this. And it was in black and white. So a couple of days after I did it, because they were putting a book together, so that when we got to class, you could see this book and you could see who else was in the class. So 2 days after I sent the picture, I sent my real picture. And I said, I was just playing, that was Beyonce. And the person never wrote me back. So I was like, oh my God, if I go to that class and he put that Beyonce picture in there, I am going to be so embarrassed. So I go to class and I open the book and my real picture is there. So I'm like, well, dag, he didn't even acknowledge. So I went over to him. I met the guy that I was, emailing with. And I said, I thought that was kind of funny when I sent Beyonce. Didn't you think it was funny? And then he started telling me how it was so funny that he sent it to all his friends. And I was kind of saying to myself, well, it wasn't that funny. I'm kind of Beyonce. So Beyonce was our raw sugar. Beyonce and Jay-Z.
Cool. We have, so Eloise, this economy has impacted women dramatically. It's being called a she session.
Hmm.
How would you encourage women who are balancing so much to stay focused and positive as we close out 2020? How can we ask for help?
How can we ask for help? I think I'll start with how can we ask for help? I think conferences like this, and it is a shame that it's not in person, are a very powerful way that we can ask for help. Like you see me, for instance, I think Charmaine Matlock Turner was your morning keynote. There are women here that are either going through the same thing that you're going through, or maybe can throw you a lifeline. So the first thing you have to do is, just like when we did the lemons, you have to be willing to say, I need help. Reach out to each other. Even though we're digital, you can certainly, if nothing else, you can certainly find us on social media, LinkedIn. So reach out to each other. There aren't easy answers to these questions. My daughter, when we first started, Pam and I were chit chatting a little bit. And originally, I said no to this date because this is my daughter's birthday weekend, and we always go away and do something on this weekend every year. She lost both of her jobs when the pandemic happened, both of her jobs, and she couldn't find anything at all here in Philly. So she moved to North Carolina, thinking she's going to try her luck down there. So I am certainly not sitting here with pure answers, but I think it's like that poem at the end. You have to try again, and find encouragement. Think about things like some of the stories I told you. You know, the pandemic is tough, but we're not on a dirt floor. The parent of sharecroppers who were slaves with 3 months of formal education. You know, there are a lot of things that are not going our way, but we have a lot of things going for us. And sometimes in situations like this pandemic, you really figure out how to pivot and change. My hairdresser, believe it or not, I do have a hairdresser, and she told me that before the pandemic, she had 65 regular customers. Now, since the pandemic started and she was finally able to reopen, she's down to 10. 10. It's not sustainable. However, she's getting creative. She's giving virtual haircuts. Now, I don't know if I'd be brave enough to do that, but for a price, she'll get online with you and talk you through, cutting your hair. She's coming up with all kinds of inventions. So you just have to keep at it and pull whatever it is that makes you strong so that we can get through this thing. This is not going to last forever. Trouble don't last always. It feels like it does, but it doesn't. This is going to pass. This too shall pass. So do whatever it is that you have to do to keep yourself positive. Stay focused. I love Covey's 7 Habits. He talks about being proactive and not just responding to the environment or the circumstances that we find ourselves in. And that's what we have to do. We have to be proactive as hard as it is. And unlike my camera, I don't know if you see that. It looks like it got fuzzy to me, but stay focused, stay the course. And if you need help, call your girlfriends, get a circle of a support system to help you. Do whatever you have to do, but just keep going. Oh, I see. What are some ways to show vulnerability in the workplace? I think ask for help. Giving this talk, I'll tell you a painful secret. This is actually the third time I've spoken about lemons to lemonade, and each time I did it, I changed it a lot. So the first time I did it, I did it one way, and then I guess somebody who was there liked it, so they invited me to be a keynote at a conference of educators in Harrisburg. And I agreed to it, but I probably shouldn't have because I had like a lot going on that weekend. I got up there, man, I stunk up the auditorium. It was horrible. It was so bad. I still have nightmares thinking how badly that went. Um, and so when Pam asked me to speak about it again, it brought back the embarrassment and the pain of doing it badly. And so I really didn't want to do it. But then I don't know. When I got freed up this weekend, I said, okay, I'll try. But this time I asked for help. I reached out to some of my friends and I tried different things because, it's to me, it's harder when I can't like see you and, kind of connect and feed off of your energy in the same way that I can in person. So I had to try to think of stuff to make it more fun since we're virtual. And oh, my daughter helped me. And my friend Marjorie Winther really coached me and gave me the confidence to get up here and talk to you today. So I think the main way that you show vulnerability is to ask for help. And if you start screwing up, admit it right away. I'm making a mistake here, and pivot, change course, try something else. But major way to show vulnerability is to ask for help when you need it. Don't be too proud. I see a North Carolina person. Welcome to Pennsylvania. And how do you engage with your audience? It's tough when you can't see them and feel them. It's more than just seeing you. It's when you're in person, you can feel the person. So I tried using the chat to get a feel for you. And like Pam, I never met Pam before. So what we did was, we met a few minutes before the session right here, and that helps you make a connection because it gave me a feeling about like Pam's vibe. But that's the best you can do when it's electronic. So with so many companies working remotely, how do you keep morale up and stay positive? Would love to learn more about how companies. You know what? Now I'd love to hear other people. How are your companies getting your employees morale? What are you guys doing? I'll tell you a couple of things that we're doing is um, first of all, I make sure that I have one-on-ones with all of my direct reports. I don't, at first, I felt like it was kind of awkward because I was thinking it was only going to be a couple of weeks. So I kind of avoided it. But now I make sure I am talking and I don't make it be Zoom. Because, like I said, I like to hide with the camera off a lot of times because sometimes I look a hot mess in here. But I will talk to you for up to a full hour if you need it once a week. And in addition to that, we just started having our regular meetings and our regular sessions. We try to laugh. We try to have fun. What are some things that other people are doing? Yeah, there's a weekly meeting on Fridays, appreciations. People love to be appreciated. Games. Um, let's see. Oh, good offers. What is this one? Integrate for good. Oh, virtual volunteer. There's nothing like volunteering and giving of yourself to take your thoughts off of yourself. That's a beautiful suggestion. And and I see we have Bev who's offering to engage us as groups if we're interested in doing that. WebEx weekly meetings, Halloween lunch, regular check-ins. These are great suggestions. Oh, and then we have sort of like study buddies where more experienced team members partner with less experienced team members and they talk once a week. That's a really great idea. And we can check integrateforgood.org for some suggestions. Daily check-ins, 15-minute catch-ups. Very good. I think the answer is just to connect. Guilty pleasure poll. We did a survey, a couple of them, to ask people, what's your experience like? What's your remote experience like? What are your challenges? And we tried to figure out things we could do to make it better. So an example is, we hadn't really thought about it, but a lot of people were used to having dual monitors at work. And at home, they only had one monitor. And a lot of people were complaining about that. And that was easy enough for us to fix. So we started sending out second monitors to people. And then we had some people who were complaining about they were at home and their furniture wasn't ergonomically good. And now, we didn't let everybody take all their office furniture home, but we did allow some people to take like their chairs, so that at least you could be sitting straight and, maybe have more comfort. So those were some things that we did. And these are some great, you should really copy and paste that chat. That's what I'm going to do, and borrow some of these ideas. And yes, Penn State out there, we are, right? My daughter graduated from Penn State. Ice cream. Ice cream makes everything better. What other questions, if any, does anybody have? Breaks during the day, mindfulness. I think Teresa, who's going to be speaking later, is a mindfulness instructor. I took her class and it was phenomenal.
Yes,
It
you're
was
correct. Eloise, Harriet Stein will be at 3:00 and doing
Harriet,
mindfulness. Yep. Yes.
Harriet and Teresa,
Yes, correct.
the two musketeers, the two mindful musketeers.
Oh, well, Eloise, thank you so much. Again, I'm sorry that your keynote didn't go well, but I have to tell you, you nailed it today. And I am so thankful that you agreed to join us. I'm sorry you can't spend time with your daughter this weekend, but again, we are the beneficiary of your time, and we greatly appreciate it. And I see Samantha would like to be best friends. So
hit me up, Samantha.
So again, thank you all for joining us. We are recording the session, so we'll make it available if you want to catch some additional or catch more information again about what Eloise shared. But otherwise, we'll see you later in the day. So thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.